All right, good evening, YouTube family. This is a pretty late video. It's probably around 11 o'clock or so. There was a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Um, First of all, and not to beat a dead horse, but um, it's gonna tie into some other things that are going on. But this bill, HR 127, that's in Congress right now, that's moving along the process of being uh, being, I guess, becoming a law. I'm not exactly sure where it is right now. I think last time I heard it was in the House. But as many of y'all know, it's supposed to, to be real, very general. It's supposed to, they'll end up taxing each gun that a person has. The magazines, um, ammo is going to be taxed. Um, People are going to be required to take a psychological evaluation, background checks, and I believe also they're trying to do away with private sales, which they would have to. I mean, if they're going to do everything else uh, with you having to get a license, that has to be part of it. Getting rid of the private dealers, the private, sales between people. Um, so this would be a federal law, but a lot of governors, especially in conservative states, have already said that they're not going to enforce it, and they have I forget what it's called. It's kind of like a law, but what basically it means is that the federal government cannot conscript local law enforcement to help them enforce the federal law. So, like maybe FBI or marshals cannot come in and use local law enforcement to go, and I'm not exactly sure how that works, but so it would be against the state law here in Texas. That's the way it is. I'm gonna look up the term. I forgot. I had it. I mean, I just had it. That's why I didn't write it down. I don't know. I can't remember it. But basically, it just means that they can conscript local law enforcement. And so, like I said, everybody's been talking about it. But what I wanted to do was tie it in to sort of like the bigger picture of what's going on. So I always say that anytime when you have gun confiscations throughout history, what ends up happening is it's a precursor to genocide. And if you've looked at if anybody has looked up the Deagle report, which I mean it could be part of just part of the whole psychological warfare that's being conducted against people, against Americans. But the Deagle report basically says that it compares the population of the whole world, right? It breaks it down nation by nation, and one of the categories is population, and it has population. Excuse me, sorry about that. It has a population, like for example, the United States population in 2017 is something like 326 million, and so the estimated population for the United States in 2025, it goes all the way down to like 99 million. Not only that, but the GDP, the budget, the military budget, all that goes down like by more than 50%. The population drops like 69%. And not only that, but it happens in all the what I call the Western nations, like Great Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all the Western English speaking countries, if you know what I mean. So that, and with other things going on with like with the vaccines that they're trying to use to combat the health crisis, the so-called health crisis. Um, I kind of see all these dots, and not to be not to be out there with so-called conspiracy theories, but if you put all these things together and just look at them, and you sit back and you look at them with a clear mind, and with you go back in history. When anytime there's been genocide, the first thing that they had to do before that, though, was they had to take away the people's guns. They would have no way to defend themselves. And another thing is, you would also pick a group of that nation and vilify them, single out a group in some way, in some form, and pass laws to to bring about these changes that you want. And so that brings me to an article that I saw on Zero Hedge, and it has to do with Robert Grenier. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right, but he was a former counterintelligence chief for the CIA in Afghanistan and Iraq, and he wrote an op-ed for the New York Times, and had an interview also with on NPR, and he suggests going to war against domestic insurgents, right? And he says to apply tactics used in Afghanistan and Iraq against Americans that were labeled insurgents, and the groups that he specifically singled out were groups like the Proud Boys, Three Percenters, Oath Keepers, Christian Nationals, White Supremacists, and QAnon fanaticists. Okay, now the list by itself would the list by itself. Okay, I've heard this before. In the early 2000s, they were already talking about that, and of course in the 90s, with Ruby Ridge and Waco, the Oklahoma City bombing. Not only were these, these were basically all atrocities, and in one way or another, they were instigated by the feds. Okay, especially Oklahoma City. That was horrible. I mean, anyway, but these things, although instigated by the feds, they were flipped and turned around and made the people that suffered. They were made to be the ones to seem to be the bad guys. And this list here is the same thing. Now, the one thing that caught my attention is they're putting in QAnon fanaticists. And to me, although I do see, I've seen people that really, like, they're really into the QAnon. And I always felt that it was excuse me, I always thought it was QAnon was like, I mean, it's psychological warfare. It's I mean, it's an inside job, so they include QAnon, right? And QAnon, I see them as whoever that is. I mean, I see it as either a CIA operation or a Pentagon operation, some kind of deep state operation. And so I see them as an agent provocateur in that group, if you know what I'm saying. If these groups if you could turn them into one person, QAnon would be an agent provocateur. Also with white supremacists, they get infiltrated all the time like militias. They get infiltrated by law enforcement, by contractors, by the intelligence services. So they're gonna use they're going to use these groups, right? And um, together with, they're gonna use that to help push the HR 127. I'm seeing a lot of these things pop up, and like I said, it's not conspiracy theory. The facts are there. Um, you just gotta time together. Um, and if you, like I said, if you sit back and you're level headed and you put your thoughts together, you can see where they're going with this. Um, you know, the criminals are not going to be taking psych evals. They're going to be getting these guns, whatever. They're not going to go by the law. And there's going to be a lot of people left defenseless and be at the mercy of these criminals running the streets or whatever. They're going to take over or whatever. Not only that, but people will be defenseless against the government, or against government non-government organizations or whatever. Basically, people will be defenseless, and it is our God-given right. It's a God-given right that to be able to defend yourself. So this law, if you put it together with the health crisis that's going on, which is trying to push a whole nother agenda beside it has nothing to do with our health. It has to do with the economic crisis that's looming. It has to do with control and all these things that are going on right now that we see. They're all tied together. They're all working in conjunction to help bring about this agenda, fulfill it for the powers that be, to help, just take more control over everybody. The police state, the surveillance state, all these things are going to be brought there. They are being brought to bear, and I keep seeing on comments of people make on these, not just social media, but if you look at the local news, and you read these stories online and you see the comments, I mean, some people are just straight ignorant. I'm happy to see, relieved to see people that are making good comments. Not, sometimes they don't even support my position, right? My opinion, but they at least, a lot of these commenters say at least that it should be left up to people to make up their own mind about certain things, But so all these things are going on, and it's a bombardment of information. We're getting bombarded with information. We're getting bombarded with misinformation, and straight up lies, and it's kind of hard to keep track of what's true. It's kind of hard to take in all the information, process it, and to analyze it, and come out with some kind of coherent conclusion, right? Um, is this going on or is that going on? What do we do? A lot of people are, they're stressed out. For my part, I'm a prepper, right? And I just use that word. It's not to mean that, like doomsday preppers, right? Doomsday preppers did a lot to shed a bad light on people like myself and others that prepare for, and it could be for anything, right? But my philosophy is right now, my concern is the economy, right? And I believe that this is why they're doing all this. all these things are happening. It's just a full scale war on humanity, and not just here in the United States, but all over the world. You see, um, it's just you see protests going all over the world, and you see the wealthy and the rich of the world. They're getting richer, and the rest we're getting poor. Um, Now, here in America, the government's been giving out stimulus pack. They've been passing stimulus packages, and they've been sending out money to the people. Excuse me. Now, it's a double-edged sword, like I've said before. It's a double-edged sword because um, people need the money, and I believe that whatever money they send us, that's the least that we deserve. Because we're the ones that do all the work. We're the ones that create value for everything. And um, at the same time, though, all this money that's being created with nothing backing it, with out of thin air, is devaluing the currency. Right? Is making in the long run, in the long run, we end up paying more. Every time this money is created, it loses value, and really, it's not so much that the money is being printed out of thin air with nothing to back it. Before it was gold. Gold was what backed the currency. Um, but technically, it is being backed, and what's backing it is our labor, and not only our labor, but the labor of the future, right? Our kids, our grandkids, our grandkids. Um, they're the ones backing the currency. Um, all the expenditures, right? They're literally, like I said before, they're going forward into time, and they're saying, okay, this is how much they're gonna produce, so we're gonna borrow from that, and they could they can worry about it later. They're kicking the can down the road. I've heard that we're reaching a point where that's not sustainable anymore. They can't do it. I don't know. I started prepping in 2012 when I found out how our economic system worked, and um, that's what made me start prepping. And at that time, if things were if the rules were being followed, right, generally accepted accounting principles were followed, we would have collapsed. Everything would have collapsed a long time ago, especially in 2008, which it actually did. Everything did collapse, but they kept it going with they literally bailed out these corporations and banks, uh, with literally money that didn't exist. They just printed it up. Actually, the government created bonds, sold them to the Fed. The Fed bought them, and that's how they bailed out the banks. Not only the banks, but basically the whole world. They bailed out the whole world, and so when you have a debt-based economy, you cannot ever pay the debt because the debt is money, right? They've monetized the debt, so you cannot ever pay it off. There's not enough money. So if you pay off the debt, the money disappears. It's destroyed. So they're like on they're like a vicious cycle. They have to keep printing money, and so this is why you're gonna keep seeing um, more stimulus packages passed, and they're gonna give out money to the people because they have to that's the only way to keep it going. But I've said that before in 2012, like I said, and they've still kept it going. And it's my opinion that this great reset, excuse me, this great reset is it's going to be used to, since the currency, right, the form that we're using right now, it, it's it's about to near its end. So they're going to switch over to another kind of system, which is the digital system. This is just my opinion, but that's how they're going to do it to keep it going. And so they're done. They've done looted us. They've done pillaged us. And so now they're gonna switch over to another system, and they're gonna start they're gonna start fresh, and they're gonna keep on diluting. And this is how they've done it throughout history. Um, Throughout history, they've these people go back thousands of years. I'm thinking, and they've always had control over humanity like that. So um, all these things that we're seeing, guys, with the gun control and um, this demonization of certain groups of people, it's all working together with the health crisis, with the economy that's going down, and that's what they're going to use. They're using that to, to my opinion, to cull the population and to take more control. Why? Like I said, I don't know why they're doing that. They already have everything. They have everything. It's just, is it a game, or are we like? I mean, do they think that we're like children and that's the only way to control us? No, because you can see it that they've it's their greed, and it's just they're power hungry. So my point of all this is that it doesn't really matter what you prep for. What's the reason? Just keep prepping. Um, from what I understand, from what I've heard, I mean, if these rules and processes play out the way they're supposed to, America's in for a very bad time, a horrible time. And so use this time to prepare. Use your money to prepare, buy your food, buy your water, whatever, your necessities. Learn how to garden, buy seeds. Um, I can't picture a world that bad. I cannot picture it, but there is places in the world that are like that. Um, a lot of people talk about America's sucky place to live, and I love America. I love the idea that's America. The they we went to school, and all those schools propaganda and all that, but we did learn about the Constitution, and we did learn about our God-given rights. And I tell you what, I like that lesson stuck in my mind. So that's what we gotta. I mean, this world's just temporary, guys. But there's something after this. After this, our life is over. There's another part of the journey that we got to go through. Um, but that doesn't mean that I'm ready to, that I'm just ready to die. No, I mean, I'm not afraid to die. Um, and so maybe that's why many of us, we're not afraid, because we know this is just temporary. But while we're here, I'm gonna fight for my children, my grandchildren, and I know a lot of, if you're listening to this video, y'all feel the same way for the most part. So, um, you know, it's the survival of the fittest, guys. And people gotta realize, you gotta see the danger, because if you don't see the danger, you've lost your survival instinct. And so just prepare. It doesn't matter what you prepare for. Just know that really people should always be like this. We should always be preparing. So just keep your eyes and your ears open, and just use your discernment, and try to keep your mind open, and think outside the box. Connect the dots, read between the lines. That this is what we do. So y'all just take care out there, guys. Take care of each other and love each other out there. Thanks for being here so late with me. Y'all take care and God bless. Bye.